Hello, my name is Benny. I'm here with a good friend, Barry. So we're here at iShook and we're trying to know people's and what they've done. What are they doing? What's the new click that they're getting into? And further, how do we become like them in our future? So we're here with Barry. How you doing, Barry? How's everything? Tell us who you are. Give us a background. What's going on? I have no idea what's going on. No, I'm just kidding. I do know, but I'm just here to just make, we're here to create like a nice mini micro master classes of all individuals who have great successes in their lives. So
Awesome.
Barry, tell us what's going on. How's your day going so far?
It's going great, Benny, and thanks for having me on today. I wanted to know, did you want the 30-second elevator pitch or the 2.5-minute one?
No, let people know who you are. Listen, 2.5 minutes is good. Listen, I'm also here to learn. I want to learn from everybody. I want to understand the industry. I'm here to expand the industry into ideas that I have that I think can revolutionize storytelling.
Perfect. So I'm from Canada originally, and years and if you can tell by the color of my hair, years and years ago, my dad said to me, there's not much of an outlet for entertainment or theater. So young man, you need to get an education. So at the time, the oil industry was pretty hot in Canada in the 70s. So I went to a school called SAIT, and I got an engineering diploma in oil and gas, thinking that that's where I was going to make my living. And then, one day I met this lady and she got me back into entertainment again. And so I've been a professional actor and a salesperson and a management sales executive for over 40 years, right? So I've always plugged away at the entertainment industry. That's been my passion. But, I'm a real family man. And when it comes to family, sometimes you got to look after your family, right? So I've had peaks and valleys. And I was very fortunate here 4 or 5 years ago to meet who I classify a very good friend today, Diana Carter, who is just instrumental in where I'm moving forward in the entertainment industry today. And I feel blessed, Benny. I really do. And I want to say thanks for having me on today. And I love to just share whatever I can share with you guys.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So I'm so far with interviewing you're the second interview with Diana, right? Peoples, right? So, yeah. But I'm noticing that a trend, and I think this is a real trend in any actor and actress, I believe, that education is a formidable part of their acting career. I mean, to have a trade, I think, gives you more of an accessibility of understanding roles. Am I correct or wrong?
I think you're absolutely correct. And then I think also experiences, right? So one of the things that education taught me is it taught me the ability to think on my feet and to logically break things down, because sometimes we can get caught up in the emotion so much that we don't look at things from a logical point of view. And I think you got to be able to look at things from both sides. It's like a yin and a yang kind of a deal. If it's too much emotion, you got to get back to logic. If it's too much logic, you got to get some emotion in there. And I've said it to Diana a number of times, and I would have liked to thought that I was a pretty good actor back in the mid 80s, but I think with my experiences and what I've gone through and my education, I think we get better. I don't know if I want to say better, but we know more how to break things down and how to look at them and how to deliver a real life character to the screen without making it look like you're acting, right? And I think that's the key, is how do you act without letting anybody know you're acting? It's got to be natural.
Right. You got to be the person, basically. You got to be the person. That's the key. I mean, and you can tell, people can tell whether you're acting or whether you are that person. Am I seeing The Rock or am I seeing a person who's not The Rock? Right. So
correct. You've probably watched some film every once in a while and you went, that guy's acting. I caught him acting. Right. And that's the one thing that none of us as actors want to have happen, is to someone catch us acting. So it's got to be natural and to the point. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is it's okay to stop and pause and think about what you're doing, right? Because when you think about it, it comes through, because the camera's on your face and it's on your eyes, and it can read that stuff. But if you feel like you have to push it to show it to somebody, then you're pushing it to show it, and so
Right.
you're not letting it happen, you know.
So it's not
So
naturally, it's not a natural, let's say per se, you're not naturally acting, basically. That's the problem. You
that's the
have to be
problem.
naturally acting, like,
Right.
and that's, I think, what happens with a lot of the social media influencers. They're not really acting. They're not naturally acting.
Correct.
They're acting of something. They're acting off something, but they're not really acting.
Right. And I took some time yesterday, and I went through one of the videos that you had on the interview you did with dot com magazine. And I
Right.
thought that was bang on and right on the money and spot on. And I love what you're doing with your company, because when you think about it, uh, and I think why you're where you're at today is where you come from in terms of education and schooling. And we were taught up in Canada years ago, it's okay to debate an issue and come away as friends, no matter what side of the issue you were on. And sometimes we were given subjects where that really wasn't the side we were on, but we had to argue that that's the side that we're on. So we had to take the time to learn about what the pros and the cons are, so that we could speak with some intelligence about what's going on. And one of the things that I don't like today is that it just seems if you have an opinion, and no matter how fact based it is and how found based it is, somebody wants to hate you for it. And that's not right. I mean, we should all be able to listen to people's opinions and then take from it, and then go and take a look at, well, is that really what's going on, and have it based in fact? Because I think we all have something very valid to bring to the world.
But that's the joke. It's called hashtags. But the point of a hashtag is to hash out your discourse, right? And
Yep.
it's a hashtag, but it's like they're not utilizing, it's not being utilized properly. It just doesn't make sense. But
It
no
doesn't
doubt,
make sense.
people's don't realize is that when you have conversations and you talk, you're able to develop new ideas. And if you're always fighting, you're not developing those new ideas. You're
That's
creating
right.
a block, and that's a huge thing. I mean, that's the ultimate, and hypocrisy is also the main thing. If you're a hypocrite, there's nothing to talk about. I feel like if you're flip flopper, like, no offense, I think in Canada you have this Prime Minister Trudeau, right? I don't know if you
That's okay.
like
There's no love lost there, Benny.
with his stupid Nazi debacle recently. What nonsense! What
Yep, yep.
stupidity! I never saw this in my life. Anyway, yeah, I mean, but yeah, definitely. In so let me ask you something. How many roles have you done that you felt maybe were complicated, or you had to exert more of yourself to be naturally acting? Meaning, like, okay, you're getting into the scene, but you feel that you really don't, you're not really getting it. And then what would you do to like click it? Like, okay, that's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm gonna do to make it not look like you're acting, so to speak.
So a year ago, I was in Philly, and I got the good fortune to end up playing the lead role in a miniseries that we know we're getting ready to go into season 2. And I can't talk a whole bunch about it because we're on NDAs and stuff. But there was one scene that I was doing with a gentleman, and I was just having a little trouble in there. And the director pulled me off to the side, and he said, "Here's what I want you to think about, Barry. I want you to take yourself back to a time that you were a real smart ass, and you were cutting and you were bite edging, and you were just you're gonna drill this guy into the ground." And he says, "That's what I want you to think." But then he said, "I want you to temper it a little bit." And he said, "Take your time." He said, "We got 5-10 minutes before we go back on set, figure out what you want to do." And so he really helped me on that. And good directors are good that way, because they know in their mind the vision of what they want to see. And then it's up to, then he translated it to me. This is kind of what he was looking for. And I think all of us as actors, no matter how good we are, we need that direction, because a director has a vision that's maybe a little different than ours. And every once in a while our vision melds, and it's perfect and magic happens. But in this case here, magic happened after Mike said, this is what I need you to do. And we actually took a couple of times during that setup where he said, "No, I don't like what you're doing, Barry. Let's go back and talk again." And we went back and we got it and we nailed it. And that's what it was all about. And to have someone come up and say to you after the fact, "That was great, man. You nailed it." I think that's what we look for all the time. I mean, I'm pretty humble when it comes to my acting. I've been doing it for a long time. So for me, it's about, can I make sure that it's believable, And so I've had some really good coaches through the years. I was taught originally from a gentleman out of London, England, that was a graduate of RADA. He started me out, and it was interesting. Years ago, when there was a class of us in the room, he said, "Just so you all know, there's only going to be about two of you in 20 years from now. Who's it going to be? And I put up my hand, and another guy put up my hand, and I think I'm the last guy standing, Benny, after 40 years.
Oh,
I'm still,
wow.
I'm still digging at it. And I joke with my wife every once in a while. I go, you know what? I think any minute now I'm going to become an overnight success, but I
Wow.
just keep throwing it up against the wall. And I think it's just like all of us. If you have that entrepreneurial attitude that you can do anything in the world that you want, then, and you have a passion, then you approach it from a passion and you make sure you always do it. So I've had that gentleman really got me my head screwed on straight. And then I had the good fortune to have a lady by the name of Judy Kerr. She was one of the vocal coaches on the Seinfeld set through the years, and she became my coach in the 90s and the 2000s. And when I still lived in Canada, I would come down yearly to have her help me on my chops. And when someone says to you, I don't like that, Barry, I didn't believe you. And in your heart of hearts, you went, I thought I did really good. And then she just kind of slammed me down. It made me rethink about what I was doing. And there's nothing better than really good, hard, constructive criticism, right? And
Right.
you got to learn not to take it the wrong way.
No doubt. So you've so definitely people's got to learn from this, from what you just said. And I know this for a fact in business. You always have to be willing to learn. You always, no matter what age, no matter where you're coming from, you gotta be willing to learn. And people's are not willing to learn. That's their biggest problem. And then second of all, you're saying something also very important. Sometimes the output we create, we don't really receive it ourselves. So we don't really know the output. You need that third party
Right.
individual who'll be very constructive to the criticism that they're giving.
Very,
Wow, that's
very
very,
much so. Very much
yeah.
so.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're giving case examples of people's, for people to understand, where they're missing. And honestly, a lot of times I talk to Diana and I talk to others, and I'm like, listen, I want this guy, if he ever is going to work for iShook, I'm like, I want him to build his craft better. I don't
Correct.
want him to stay on the craft as if he thinks he's some sort of Shakespearean actor that no one can touch and he's the golden child of Hollywood or of any film industry. No, he's got to constantly build his craft, build his trade, build it. Just keep
I,
on
I,
building.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think you're only as good as your last job. So your next job better be, better
Wow,
be better. Right. You
that's a
know,
good one. That's a good statement, definitely.
I also in like about 8 years ago, I got the good fortune to play a mobster of all things. It was and it was in Locked Up Abroad or Banged Up Abroad in Europe, it's called. And this one was a session called Vegas Mobster. It was based on a chap by the name of Frankie Collada out of Chicago, who thought life got a little bit hot in Chicago and he was probably going to get whacked. So he went to Vegas in the 70s and he became part of what they call the hole in the wall gang. And the story was about him and how he went into witness protection. And so to get that audition, I actually went to a lot of his videos and I watched stuff of him so that I could have the mannerisms and stuff that he had. So when I hit the set in South Africa, and it's interesting when you look at it, you think we all shot it in Vegas, but we shot it all in South Africa. That was pretty cool. The
And of
beauty
all
of film.
yeah, the beauty that the other thing is the beauty is that you can catch those scenes that look like the other state. Like you're going to South Africa, but it looks like Vegas.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah. You know, I've always think I'm kind of maybe a mixed up soul in a little bit because I got this engineering brain on one side of me that is hardwired to the numbers and to the logical point of view. And then I have this creative side of me that's on the other side. So it's kind of like everybody's it's like you're fighting to figure out where you're at. But I think that's what makes you I think that's what makes me a better actor is that I have the ability to look at things from a number of different angles and break it down and go, well, what's really going to be best for this role? Because I can bring the engineer to the table, I can bring the lawyer to the table, I can bring the nutso to the table, I can bring just about anybody to the table. Because I've been lucky and fortunate in my life that I've had every kind of scenario come at me over the years. And I think we all do. I think if we're around long enough and God blesses us with a long life, we get to experience a lot. And I think part of being an actor is learning how to take those experiences and, bring them out.
So how many times would you say the directors actually take your advice in the role that you take? Do they listen to you as well, or do the directors say, no, Barry, you're wrong? stop bothering me. Like, what do they? I'm sure they probably. I'm being too subtle with their responses. They're like, get out of here! I don't
Yeah.
want to hear. You know what I mean? Like, but how many? Like, is it wrong for an actor to say to their director, "Listen, I know you got this vision. How would an actor approach the director and saying, listen, maybe if we do it that way? And if a director is not really open, is he the right director for the job? I mean, unless he's got a big name and he's proven himself to be,
Well, I think that, when a director gets a job, there's a reason that he has it, which is he has a vision and he sees what the writer's vision is and the production company's vision is, and he can deliver on that. And I'm always, if there's one thing about me, my parents always taught me, you got to be respectful, right? To,
right.
to people that you work with and folks around you. So when someone's sitting in a director's chair, I'm always very respectful and I mind my P's and Q's in terms of how I might approach them if I think there should be something that could be added. We were just in Philly doing a show called Monster On that we're going to finish here in California in about a week and a half. And there was just one spot and one scene where one of the gentlemen I was talking to walked away. And in my mind's eye, when he walked away and he looked at me and he smiled, I went, that's a money shot right there. It really is a money shot. And so I went to the director, to Ted, and I said, could we grab that shot at some point when he's walking away and he turns and smiles and get a close up on him? Because I said, that's the money shot. And then he had me do that as well on my end. And I wasn't really looking for the money shot on me. I wanted the money shot on my friend Shamar because it was just a phenomenal moment. And we were able to capture it on camera. And I want to, if Ted, if you hear this, I want to say thank you, buddy. I mean, it was just so awesome that you're able to do that. And we don't know if it'll hit the editing floor or not, but to grab it, it was kind of nice. And so when I was in Cape Town and we were doing the mobster movie, I worked with a chap by the name of Peter Norrie out of London, England. He was working for Raw TV at that time. Great director, great gentleman. And we would talk about what we were looking for in a scene. And he was always open to what I was kind of bringing to the table. But what I liked about him is if he said, yeah, I like that, and that, Barry, but can you change this? I respect that. And I think us as actors can't be so locked into something that we can't move one way or the other. We got to be able to say, okay, well, I have an idea of what I want, but if they want it a different way, we got to be able to deliver that, right?
No doubt, no doubt. No, I appreciate that point. But ultimately, I've noticed also you're talking about the edit floor, right? How many movies in your experience have, let's say, you film X amount? How much is the percentage that's actually being used in the end of the movie? I mean, because I know there's a lot of these cut scenes, deleted scenes, and all that stuff. But in reality, how many is actually, in percentage-wise, would you think is being used?
Gosh, Benny, yeah, that's just such a tough question to answer because I'm not quite sure. I do know that a lot hits the editing floor because you shoot so much, and in there is the magic that you're looking for to edit it together. And some things have continuity, and then you might have a really great shot, but maybe the mic stand ended up in it or something, and then you got to cut it. But although today there are things that you can do that you couldn't do on film, the beauty about video and camera and stuff. I mean, today they're shooting movies on iPhones and stuff like that. That was unheard of 20, 30 years ago. It was on 35 mil and 70 mil film and stuff like that. But today it's unheard of. So you can do stuff in post that you could never do before. So there may be there may be more stuff today that's used versus what hits the editing floor. But I mean, I really wish I could answer that question, but I would bet there's probably at least probably half of the stuff kind of hits the editing floor because you shoot so much looking for the right stuff. And then other times they may go, hey, that's exactly perfect. I worked for a gentleman in South California here a couple of years ago, and I really liked how he directed. And I helped him on the editing on the back end. So that was very big for me to learn the editing side of it. And so when he's seen something, and I was doing acting and I was doing clipboard and I was doing production and I was doing everything. When he got a scene exactly in his mind the way he said he wanted it, he would tell me, okay, Barry, mark that number 1, number 2, number 3, so that when we went to the editing stages, we knew exactly where to go on all the film. We didn't have to go through miles and miles and miles of stuff looking for the good stuff. We already had it already marked. We could go right to it. That saved a lot of time in the editing process.
Wow. Yeah, because the reason why I was asking is I would figure that, you would do a scene and he was like, oh, my scene over there is not even shown. You know, like like how many of those you get, you know what I mean? But it's true. I didn't think about that. Where the editing that was, let's say, from 2008, not even, let's say 2010 and before, is very different than now in the
Oh,
past 13 years. I mean, when did they start being, when were you, no, even early later, 2000, like 18, 19 is where you were able to already make movies off the iPhone. And
correct.
then only recently we have the AI technology and enhanced background removal, or you can remove certain objects from a scene as well. So that's only recent as well. I mean, so we have a lot of creating ability now than we ever had before. I see. No, I see what you're saying. That's a very
Without a
strong.
doubt. Yeah,
Yeah, go
without a
ahead.
doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. It's just it's actually moving at light speed when you think about it, right?
Yes, it is. It is. It definitely is. And in a business perspective, I'm thinking, yeah, we gotta really, that's an eye opener in the business world. Because if you think about how the future of developing movies is going to be, it's going to be a big money changer. And I
It
think the
will
big
be.
production companies are seeing that, and that's why they want to undercut all the actors and the actresses. I
Correct.
mean, I don't
Correct.
want to undercut actors and actresses, because I think movies still have to have a real sensibility to itself. You can't have AI created likeness of a person. I mean,
Yeah.
how much of
For me, for years, I mean, the ultimate through all the years would have been just to always work as an actor, but sometimes that's just not realistic. So, I mean, I've done everything from engineering to running a downhole drilling tool company in Canada to building sales organizations in the U.S. here for call centers and inbound and outbound channels. And you do what you need to do to support your passion, right?
right, right. So
And
it's so that's another lesson we learned. Don't think acting is your main job, as rather as a passion, right? Because
correct.
not everybody's going to become an A-lister and make millions and millions of dollars. And even
Yep.
those who make millions of dollars end up losing the millions of dollars. I don't want to mention names of the great actors that we know that are still acting now, who have lost all their wealth.
That's
I
correct.
mean,
So I think you have to have something to fall back on, and I'm in a job right now that I'm working that is a great company and they allow me to come and go. My criteria when I went to work for them is they called me and they asked me to come back to work for them. I said, guys, I'd love to. I got a lot of things going on right now, film wise. Diane told me here not that long ago that she has a lot of films going to the American film market. And she said, you don't know it or not, Barry, but you're in about 5 of the ones that I'm pitching. And I went, wow. Oh, that's pretty cool. I said, that's cool, isn't it? And
great,
she says,
awesome.
that's great. And I went, she said, that's great, Barry. And I went, wow, that's pretty cool. But I don't stop to think about it that way. It's just, to me, I love to get the credit. I love to get it up on screen. I love to do a good job. And the guys that I'm working for right now said, Barry, you can come and go as you please because we respect your passion. And when you can have that, I think I have the best of both worlds. And naturally, what I want to do is look after my wife and my son. And I got a brand new grandson in my life, so that's pretty cool. So
Wow, congrats,
yeah,
congrats. That's awesome.
yeah.
Wow, that's an unbelievable. Who are these players? Can I get a job? Like what? Like, maybe I can get a mini salary on the side. Get a little extra.
I know.
Coffee. You know what I mean?
Yep, I know. I know. It's
Coffee's expensive today. You go to Starbucks, $8. You make your own coffee, it's $3. I
it's
mean, like,
crazy, right? Yep.
yeah,
I went down to the grocery store the other day and it was kind of funny, it's when I went my first day when I went to college in 1976, I went to a grocery store and I bought a bag of groceries. I paid $25 and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I didn't get nothing for $25. And she said, welcome to the real world. This was 1976. And the other day I went and I bought some groceries, basically the same bag. I paid $100 and I went, man, everything comes around, right?
yeah.
We're back where we were in the 70s and the 80s with high rates of inflation and everything else, and we're
I
all
think it's
just trying
it's
to
for
find our
sure in
way
my mind.
forward.
It's been done deliberately and non-deliberately. Well, COVID was not deliberately; they had to print the money,
Yep,
but then it's non-deliberately because the extension of it. People are still living in a warped reality. I mean, they're not living in the reality, and it's eventually going to hit them because they're not going to. Where do you think all this homeless thing is coming from?
correct.
Is
Yep,
people were hit. They got sucked into this non-reality, and then reality hits them, and they can't pay their mortgage, their rent, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's a huge problem. It's a self-inflicting wound I believe in our society in general, especially in Canada. You guys have it the worst.
It's yeah, you know, I talk to well, I call my mom and dad. I talk to them almost weekly because they're going to be both, bless their souls, 91 years of age here pretty quick. And it's important that I stay in touch with them, you know. But they always fill me in on what's going on. And I'm from the western part of Canada, so this is probably going to be seen all over the place. But you know, there's not a lot of love lost to a lot of degree between Western Canada and Eastern Canada because of the politics that went on during the years and stuff. It's a beautiful country, but I left for greater opportunities to come down here. My tax, I was paying huge amounts of taxes in Canada, and as much as California is an expensive state, I don't believe I'm paying the same amount of tax here in the US as I was paying in Canada. So there's still, I believe America is one of the best countries in the world to live in, and you can achieve your dreams if you want to achieve your dreams. And my dad always said to me, he said, son, you can do anything you want to do as long as you put your mind to it, but you got to put your mind to it.
Right. Well, by far, America is the only country that gives you these opportunities.
Yep.
All other countries, you have to go through many, many hurdles. Here in America, you file an application, you're in. You file, you get you contact a LinkedIn person, you're in. Or you can say also, I don't, you know, you can ignore you, right, or whatever
Yep.
it is. But there, the connectivity and the instant wanting to connect and to do something is never, it does not exist in any other country. Maybe Japan, actually. Japan, there's a lot of connections.
Correct.
I mean, I've been to Japan, they have, even China, don't be surprised. In the business aspect of China, they're very active in making business deals. They're very business savvy. I mean, minus the communist part and the Marxism part.
Yep.
Right.
I think on their part, they're very, they've got capitalism down, but they do have that higher entity that they have to report to. That's, you know, taking their cut of the action, as it were. You know, we've seen it happen in the oil industry in Canada.
Yeah, they have a status. They have a status. They have a status culture. And what's happening is that people want a status culture in America, and that's not going to fly by. I mean, 300, 200. I'm pretty sure about 320 million Americans who are, you know, who are middle class, and then you have the lower class. I'm including the lower class. They're not going to be able to live in a status society in America.
Yeah. It's about everybody being able to find their way in the world, I think, right? Whatever that passion is. I really feel for the homeless, because I mean, short of a few opportunities where it's been really tough for us, you know, there's that old saying, there go I, but for the grace of God, right? And so you gotta thank your blessings, and you can never stop. You can't give up. And I know that's easier said than done, because sometimes you can have all hell raining down on you and you're going like, why am I doing this? And what am I doing it for? And you got to look at the big picture and go, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel.
I mean, I remember when I was hitting the subways when I was younger, about, well, not younger, I'm still young, but when I was, let's say 2008, 2009, you barely saw homeless people because of the Giuliani reign and the Bloomberg reign. There was really no homelessness in the city, but you see a few homeless people. And it was me and another guy. We wanted to give the guy food and money.
Yep.
Like he was like, we were waiting for the subway. And he's like yelling, I don't want your money. I don't need your food. Like he was going crazy.
Yeah.
But now what I realized is people are not getting it psychologically. If you let the homelessness go, what I see personally from what I saw from this guy back then, can you imagine today? You're creating people to feel that this is their only lifestyle. That's it. Their life is homelessness. That's it. They are you killed his opportunity, his mindset that he can go beyond what it is to be homeless. And it's not proper what they're doing there. It's a degradation to society. They talk about the climate, and all that stuff. I agree with that stuff. Potentially climate could be an issue. It's a potential issue. There's no way you can predict it. No one's a prophet here. No. But at the same time, you have people who are homeless. Putting him in a hotel is not going to help you. You got to help them. You got to create housing for them where they can get back on their feet, give them 2 years housing and go. But you got to be, you know, on top of them. You got to give them, like, baby them in a sense. You got to baby them back to society. And no one's doing it. It's a shame.
That's a tough thing, because There are some people out there that will take the baby and never try to get ahead because they just like being looked after, right? And they like the fact that they don't have to do anything. And then there'll be folks that will go, they're very proud, and they're not proud of where they are, and they don't want to take the help because they see that as a step down. So you've got that dichotomy that you got to deal with, is how do you effectively help people help themselves, right? So they feel like they have picked themselves up versus someone has done all the work for them. And I think that's a tough thing to get across. I mean, California here, I mean, you take Beverly Hills area, we're up there quite a bit. My son is at Cedars with some stuff, and when we go into Beverly Hills, up to about 2 months ago, you could see all the homeless on some of the meridians and stuff, right? And then what they did is they came through and they did clean up the meridians. They put fence. I'm sure they've moved them to another area because people could roll out of the tent basically and right onto the road and could get run over. So they're trying to move them someplace where it'd be safer. But when you just move them from one encampment to another encampment, but you don't give them any direction as to which way to go, that makes it very, very difficult. Because they're really, some of them are souls that are lost, right? And how do you help them find those souls?
Sure, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, with what you tell me now, also I'm thinking back into the acting world. I mean, we got to really depict this issue much more, amplify it
Yep.
in the movie industry. I mean, that was I personally believe that was the purpose of film, was to show an experience, a story that you could have never seen or heard of, and to discover, and for you to discover that experience that someone is telling.
Correct.
Now, a lot of people have, they have made it, into bad depictions, or you have pornography, you have this OnlyFans nonsense, you have all this, this ridiculous points that I believe degrades the human intelligence. But in reality, that was the whole purpose. And what's happening now is we're still not doing where we should be depicting and creating stories to make people be empathetic to this type of life or this type of a person, to help
Correct.
them get to be, to get back on their feet. And I think that was the whole purpose of movies in general. I mean, you have those kind of movies, but how many of those movies are those Hallmark movies, right? That
Yeah.
are being made anymore. I mean, they're not really being made that much, as my perspective.
No, I think you kind of hit it on the nail there. And life is hard enough as it is, right? So when you have a movie that depicts all hell raining down around you, you walk out going, "Oh my God, well, that was a good show," but I feel terrible. Versus if you have a really feel good film, be it family entertainment, be it geared towards an elder generation, a middle generation, because we got all this. We got Gen X, we got Gen Z, we've got the millennials. If you can walk out of a film and you can feel uplifted because you got a message from it, I think that that's half the battle right there. You can walk out and you can actually take a breath, right? And you can go, life maybe is really not as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
And from an acting standpoint, if I can portray that and give somebody that feeling, I think I did my job, right?
No, you definitely did. I agree. I agree. I agree 100%. If you're able to do something that you're showing to the world, that this is who I like, you're showing to someone something that no one else could have portrayed.
Yeah.
I think you've done the job, because people, I personally think today, and I think this is the biggest problem in social media. And that's why I think you need more of film, or short film, or even podcasts
Yeah.
Patrick Bet David, or the other podcasts that are out there. Like you need more holistic information. What I believe today is most people are not capable of digesting data. Like if
I
you're on your
agree.
social media for 3 hours, you're not capable of digesting snippets of data and thinking you're getting these fragments and now you have some sort of whole sense of information. You don't. You need a full set of information. Like you need a Joe Rogan, you need a Patrick Bet David, you need a full set of discussion to hear it, understand it, digest
Correct.
it. And
Yeah.
that's what the movies were. They were full sessions. This shorts and all this was just to attract you to say, come listen to our full discovery. But now people are thinking, okay, I'm going to read a snippet. I
Yeah.
already know all that happened in World War II. Hitler was bad. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
It's interesting. We've all worked for different people and we've all done our own stuff. And as I look back over the years, I mean, I can think of a couple of people that I worked for that were the bully mentality, and I'm sure they were bullies in high school because some of that stuff just carries on. And then there's other people that I've worked for that bring out the best in you because there was an old saying that one gentleman I worked for: make your choices on errors of omission, not arrows of commission. You
Wow.
know, which was very, very cool. He may he rest in peace. He's gone now, but he he basically taught me some things on sales, that sales is really all about relationships, right? It's about building a relationship with somebody and earning their trust. And as an actor, I really take that to a core because from a sales background, you have to listen to what somebody's telling you so that you know how to react and how to maybe solve a problem. Acting's not a lot different. If I'm not listening to my fellow actor what they're saying to me, then I'll miss the cues. And I think that's where you act at, is that if you're always waiting for your line, okay, it's my line and your line, my line, your line, and then we're all acting. But if we really dig down and we actually listen to what our coworkers and our co-stars and our co-workers are saying to us on film, you can't help but react naturally because you listen to them naturally. And that was a big thing for me when I was taught that on the sales side. That was a big eye opener on the acting side because my light went on in my head and I went, man, I can put those together and I can make it work on screen. And I think that's what we all have to look for, is we got to look for the ability to be able to find the truth in something, right?
No, no doubt, no doubt. Of course, of course. But I always tell people the truth is fragmented. There's no way we will ever know the true. Basically, there is no true. Only God knows the true. My personal opinion,
No, I
right?
agree with
Like,
you. Yep.
I mean, like we don't see every angle to know what's true. We can see, some people can see more angles than others.
Correct.
That
Yep.
that's what I believe. And but I think if even in film, we're really not 100% showing every angle, right?
No.
You can't do Les Miserables. I mean, that was a complicated novel, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
that even that was trying to show all the angles of the storylines that interlink with other storylines, right? But even that is complex. So I think the best. So my question is ultimately like this: what do you think the best film would be in order to depict the most angles, like the best idea? What kind of film have you feel that, or maybe you've been in a film like that, or maybe that you've seen a film like that? What do you
You know what?
think?
And maybe I'm a realistic and a romantic at heart, but I think a real down to earth love story and comedy, because comedy is difficult, right? Comedy comes from
That's
sorrow
very
and pain, you know,
right.
and so I think a love story that's mired in comedy and pain, that's going to hit a lot of angles. You know, we
Right.
don't. I mean, I have my days where I like the shoot 'em up and the kill 'em and the blood and the guts because sometimes you've had a hard day and you just
Right.
want to have a little release. But I think the world needs more feel good, more humor, more love. Uh, and there's nothing wrong with pain as long as you solve the pain issue and you can bring a resolution to it. The miniseries that we're going back to do season 2 on here in Philly, it's called Recipes for Love, and we're tied to some pretty tight NDAs on that. But I'll just tell you this briefly. I mean, it's a really good, feel good family comedy show, and at the 2 premieres, when you got people rolling in the seats laughing because it's really, really funny, but there's serious moments, I think we're hitting it on the head. We need more of that because I think that covers the angles, Benny. I think love is all encompassing, right? And that's something that I think God gave us intuitive to love our fellow man. I think we've just chosen at times to ignore that advice and put a hate on for whatever reason. And there's no reason for hate. I mean, I think some of that is self-taught or taught. And we need to get back to the basics of life, which is we're all human. We're all here for a reason, which is to make our mark in the world and to help people. And love does that, but the only way you can do that is you have to have some pain. And you've had it, I've had it. We've all had the pain at different times and we don't like it. But I think we have a film that depicts that happening. People go, well,
I can
I can,
relate to
I
that.
can, I can relate to that, you know?
So
And
it's
that's
so realistically speaking, what you're saying is that to get every angle of emotion is possible, but every angle by perspective is very hard.
very hard. Very, but because you've got it by emotion, you may pick up the perspective.
Correct. Agreed.
Yep.
Yes. Right. That's the fundamental, I think, for a good film.
Yep.
And by the way, and I have to say this, in Talmudic study, it's something called, and in our, it's something called free hatred,
I
where
had
people, free hatred, where people hate for free. Basically, you're hating someone for no reason.
there might be a thought there behind, there might be a film there in the sense that you give someone that is just someone who's a real loving kind of guy, and you say, I want you to just hate on everybody and anybody, and I want to see how you feel. Then we're going to switch it and we're going to bring it back to the love part of it. And we may find that those people that they may feel like they got to blow up maybe by giving somebody the ability to freely hate something, they may just get it off their chest and they can become a better person.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people just hate for free. I mean,
Yep.
there's no price to your hatred. What are you hating for? What are you
Yep.
gaining out of the hatred? What you don't know the person? What It's called free hatred, and
Free
that's
hatred.
one of the worst characters you can have. That you hate someone for free. For what?
For what? Right.
For what? What did he do to you? You just saw the guy for a second. No, I hate him. What are you hating him for? Like that emotion, I think most people don't depict that emotion. Though the individual who clearly hates people for no reason, it's free hatred. It's like it's for free. You're hating for free.
And that's something that I think is a learned skill, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it is.
When you look at, when we were all kids, short of the bullies and stuff like that, you know, white, brown, black, whatever color and whatever nationality and wherever we came from, we all seen everybody as equals, right? It's not until you get older that for some reason somebody decides they want to lay their opinion on you, and their opinion is right and yours is wrong, and they're going to make you feel their opinion right to the depth of your core. And I think that's where the problem is. And maybe that's something that needs to be depicted in films, is how to get people's opinions out of there,
Not just that, there's this thing of where imposition, where people feel their opinion must be imposed to others.
Correct.
Why do you feel your opinion must be imposed to others? You want to persuade someone with your opinion, that's something else. But there's an imposition character. So that emotion of imposing, like that would be a great film where you go through a process of a person who's constantly imposing his will upon others, and then see what happens. Yeah, and put in the micro sense, not in the macro. Macro is communism, right? That's the macro.
Correct.
The micro sense is an individual who's always imposing, and show how he has shortcomings, trying to control and imposing everybody, failure, family loss, this loss, and then come to the realization, wow, what do I do? And then he comes and overcomes and rehabilitates himself. I mean, that could be.
I like that, because I think, to the point that you made at the very end, if you gave somebody, we wrote something like that, I think you would find that just through the self-hatred or the free hatred and imposing your opinion on everybody, eventually there'd come a point in time where you would go, well, really, is my opinion that valid? And maybe I need to rethink my opinion on how I look at stuff. And I think that's that inner core that we got to be able to do every once in a while. We got to look inside ourselves and go, is that really true? And one of the things that we were taught in college and in education in Canada is we were taught it was okay to debate something. Today, it seems like, no, we're not going to debate it. My my thought process is the right one and yours is the wrong one. No, I mean, how we move forward in the world is we have to be able to debate from a logical point of view and fact truths and stuff like that. Yeah, there can be emotion in it because we all get heated from time to time. But you got to be able to say, okay, well, no matter what the emotion is, we got to dial it back so we can get to what the truth is. And that's where the logic will come out. And I think that's where I think some of the best acting is when you have the logic and the emotion tempered to where you know how to control it to bring it out on film.
Wow. Listen, we're going to conclude now. I appreciate you coming, Barry. How do I pronounce your last name? I apologize. I should have asked in the beginning. I apologize.
That's okay. So there's a couple of ways to pronounce it. So old school out of Hungary, that's where all my family is originally from, would be Onody. And then in North America, we made the O's hard. So Onody.
Okay, so Barry Onody, thank
Onody
you for
or Barry Onody.
Onady. So thank you for
Onady, yeah.
coming. May God bless you. I wish you a lot of success. And definitely, iShook will want to do something with you. I mean, like our company definitely wants to do something with you. I mean, there's so much energy by you. I love this energy, and and I think people's in the shorts will learn valuable lessons, in the acting world, and like people like the synergy of acting and intelligence and to be able to comprehend information, I think is key. And I think you laid it out very well. And I learned a lot from you, by the way. I learned a
Oh,
huge
thanks,
amount.
Benny. Yeah.
Yo, no
Well,
doubt, no doubt. We got to do this again for sure in the future. We got to get another podcast. There's a lot. A lot we can talk about. I feel like I'm going to end up going for hours with you today.
well,
Like
maybe next time when I'm over in Philly or New York, we get together face to face. We get on a stage and we do it that, and we have some fun doing it that way.
that'll be actually a great idea.
Yeah.
We can we can definitely do like a round table, acting round table. I don't look at actors as just actors, by the way. I look
Yeah.
at them as entrepreneurs as well.
Correct.
Because you are creating things and you're doing things and you're sacrificing. It might not be the huge amount. Not everybody might be getting the biggest of rewards towards their acting, but they're getting rewards from it.
That's
Accreditation, recognition,
Yep.
money, some money also, some guilt, you're getting something, right?
And Benny, I want to say, hey, thanks for having me on. It was a real pleasure. And I love the idea of iShook. And when I watched that interview with .com magazine, I'm looking forward to talking to Benny, because this guy's got it on. This guy's got it screwed on straight. And I wish iShook all the best. And I love to work with you guys in the future.
Thank you very much, Barry. Much respect. I love this podcast. I love you, my brother. Thank God I met you. And guys, subscribe to iShook and subscribe to Barry. We're gonna put on the YouTube link all his links, all his bio, all his experiences and his accomplishments. So if you ever want to follow Barry, look it up. Be well.
Awesome. Thank you, Benny. All the best. Send him my love.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.